Y'all mind if I rank some jiu-jitsu competitors? Cool. Gary Tonin, probably the most entertaining competitor to never win a black belt title. Whether he's going for flying heel hooks, doing his best impression of Colonel Sanders, going toe-to-toe with Matt Bullies, known for doing things, or putting life and limb on the line. See what I did there? Life and limb. In an absolutely goated match. He may not always win, but goddamn, you're gonna be on the edge of your seat, just like I was for my circumcision. Let me put it this way. Back when I was competing, there were 3 motherfuckers that I would watch all the time. Marcelo Garcia, Mendes, and Gary Tonin. Now considering that 2 of them have about 10 world titles a pop, and 1 of them has 0, that should go to show you that you don't need dominance to stand out and be memorable. Let's be clear though, at tournaments like EBI and Polaris, he has absolutely spanked some ass. It's only at the highest levels like ADCC where he has come short. And for that reason, we're sticking our first entry in low A tier. Eddie Bravo. Now before you ask me what dank cron I was taking when I was coming up with this list, it's true, he's only ever won 1 tournament almost 2 decades ago. But the reason he's on this list is because 2 of his performances had a bigger impact on the jiu-jitsu world than TikTok has had on our entire society's brain cells. The first match being back in 2003 with Royler Gracie, and his second match 11 years later with Royler Gracie. In their first match, Royler was seen as the second coming of Christ. His brother Royce was destroying the MMA scene at the first couple UFCs. Meanwhile, Royler was establishing himself as the top G of the jiu-jitsu world. At the time, he had 3 ADCC championships to his name, with barely a single loss on his grappling record, while Eddie was barely a blimp on the radar. Royler was expected by everybody to blow past through him en route to another ADCC championship, but things weren't gonna go quite to plan. Eddie ended up not just beating Royler, but straight up finishing him with a triangle choke in a huge upset. Pretty nuts, but it was what he would do with his newfound fame that would set him apart. He would come up with a completely new school of training, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which basically consisted of taking your clothes off and renaming every single move into something that sounds like it comes out of a Game of Thrones book. Now, nobody in mainstream Jiu-Jitsu would take this new school of thought seriously. However, in the rematch a decade after Eddie's win, he would put an absolute clinic on Royler Gracie with all these moves that would totally not work, bro. Showing that conformity is not necessary. Low B tier. People often ask me, how do I master the bottom game? What does it take to be solid? What does it take to be a G? Homie, I'll tell you what your first problem is. You're asking me this question instead of getting out there and putting in work. Now, it doesn't matter if you pull up to class and you're in a Bugatti or a Fiat. All that matters is whether you are on the mats or off, you are giving 110%, not snaking anybody, not taking any rounds off, putting in the effort you know you need to put in, and stop making excuses. TopShopJedi.com. Become the bottom G that you deserve to be. I don't smoke these, it's really bad for you. Drake Cones, or Craig Jones. Yes, the OnlyFans sensation himself. My first exposure to him was seeing him almost break Gordon's arm. That one of the EBIs, that was back whenever Gordon was considered strictly a submission-only guy. But the Thunder from Down Under arc would not enter its full effect until the next ADCC, when he would rock up in his patented leopard print shorts and honestly have a pretty good showing, placing second. Now you would be forgiven in thinking that it's all about the memes with him, but I mean, he's definitely got the goods. I mean, just look at this choke right here. It's cleaner than the one I put your mom in. To be honest, he's one of the best grapplers in the current meta. However, he has one glaring weakness that is holding him back, which is blowing his load before he can finish his partner. Which, I mean, yeah, bro, you know you're not getting a second date at that point. Maybe he just needs to get a pill to take care of that. Now, you know, I actually want to put him in A tier, but you know, I feel like I have to give him a B. Duh. Dean Lister. Now, way back in the day when dinosaurs were still alive and Noah was tweeting how all the woke liberals were about to get triggered by God, before the wave of Gordon Ryan schlong riders were filling up Instagram comment sections with footlock propaganda, there was a time that footlocks and heel hooks especially were frowned upon. Practicing footlocks was viewed with the level of contempt that a normal person views somebody who enjoys pineapple on their pizza. If you went for a footlock in a tournament, there was a chance you could get shit thrown at you by the crowd. Like, that's not a joke, that actually happened. But it was in this backdrop that a man of exceptional hubris would rise. Dean Lister, or the Boogeyman, a man's man if ever a manly man existed, told the haters, bring it on, baby. He'd wrap up your ACL and peace out faster than you could say.
I like broken. I was like, oh, well, guess that's broken.
Oh, and don't get any ideas doing it to him. If you did, he'd just laugh it off like it's Brendan Schaub's comedy career. Honestly, if you're looking to sub him in general, probably not. And the whole, why would you ignore 50% of the human body? Yeah, he's the one that said that. Which means, yes, our Lord and Savior himself only started exploring his foot fetish because of a comment made in passing by Giga Chad himself. Now, if that isn't a better story than the entire arc of Sword Art Online, A tier. Sheesh. Mikey Musumeci or Darth Rigatoni. Really? Darth Rigatoni? Not Chef Boyar Nibar or the Maestro della Futalaca? But no, we'll take it, I guess. With 5 world championships to his name, very impressive. Among his many victories is even a win over Eminari. Yes, the guy who invented this move. With the flexibility of a contortionist, the adaptability of an abortionist, and the insights of our anime protagonist, has cemented himself as the guy. But perhaps his greatest achievement is not on the mats, but in the kitchen. As an award-winning pizza chef, he has been wowing the culinary world with recipes such as a pizza with cheese and cheese. Honestly, just as long as you don't put any pineapples in there, I'll eat basically any type of pizza. A tier. Moving on. Nicky Rod. The product of maxing out all your sliders under character creation, Nicky Rod would first burst onto the jiu-jitsu scene by dispatching several elite black belts at ADCC 2019. And given the fact that he was a blue belt who had been training for not even 2 years at the time, this would earn him the moniker the Black Belt Slayer, which sounds like a Dark Souls boss. It was a mix of his background in wrestling, coupled with coaching from Jesus Christ himself and his freakish genetics that would allow him to grind through all competition, scoring 2nd place at ADCC, which honestly is pretty impressive. He would get a 2nd try at Championship Gold at last year's ADCC, where he would make it all the way to the finals, going up against former teammates Gordon Guyan, in a match that he would end up losing in like 90 seconds. Yeah, heel hooks are too OP. He would get a rematch with the GOAT, where he would snap Gordon's ankle like a bag of popcorn. But, you know, who needs a foot, am I right? I do think he's poised to make one hell of a run this year, but time will tell what comes. For now, we're gonna put him right in B tier. Paul Harris, one of the grapplers of all time. He stands a mere 5'7" in stature. He has left quite the footprint on the jiu-jitsu world. Not with his feet though, but with those that he tore off of his opponent's dead corpses. Among his notable accomplishments are going toe-to-toe with our boy the Colonel himself, eye gouging and then cranking on a Kimura on Jake Shields even after the guy tapped, like ya do. And of course, his absolute farce of a match at ADCC with David Avalon. For all you newbies out there that don't remember this, let me break it down for you. About midway through the match, goes for a heel hook, David rolls out of bounds. So the ref is gonna pause the match so he can restart them in the middle. But even after a clear call from the ref, he keeps cranking on it cause, now, trigger warning here. Even though Avalon had basically freed his knee when the ref paused the match, the ref decides he's gonna start him with a full knee reap. This is the jiu-jitsu equivalent of being trapped in a hotel room with Harvey Weinstein. As soon as the ref says go, Paul Harris explodes into the heel hook with all the enthusiasm of a 14-year-old who has just found the hub for the first time. Even after a clear tap, continues to crank on it for a second or two. One of the most shameless matches since this one. Everybody took an L that day. Avalon, Paul Harris, and the ref probably took the biggest L on making that genius 200 IQ call. For all the wrong reasons, Paul Harris is gonna get put in a tier of his own. Literally, Paul Harris. Relic Gracie, the founder of Metamoris, he's gonna get an R for really shouldn't rap. Jeff Glover, the 40-year-old donkey guard pulling, flashy rashy wearing, big getting, black belt is probably more eccentric than that one guy in the tie-dye that's always trying to get you to join his meditation group. The spiritual predecessor of Gary Tonin, he was known for throwing everything at the wall in pursuit of getting the kill shot, going straight for the jugular, with all the enthusiasm of a cracked up corporate lawyer, or you know, a 12-year-old gamer who drinks Monster. Now, despite thinking that Dragon Ball Z is an actual anthology of world history and putting on some interesting seminars, you can't deny that he has truly cemented himself in jiu-jitsu lore as that guy. If you are a fan of the wild side, or you know, you just believe that all that star sign bullshit isn't anything more than a scam made for stupid people to buy, then honestly, he's probably the guy for you. I'm gonna stick him right in B tier. Andre Galvo. Now, some dudes are beefcakes. My man is the entire butcher shop. Up until his match with Gordon at last year's ADCC, he held the record for the most ADCC championships ever, like in history. Editor here, even though he lost to Gordon, he still has the most ADCC titles, which which is nuts. No man has embodied the jiu-jitsu career more than him. From humble origins to the owner of one of the most revered schools in all of jiu-jitsu, Atos, and all made possible by his grit, determination, and a little bit of acai. Whether he's blasting fools into the metaverse, being the physical manifestation of Giga Chad in a human form, or giving us more shirtless pics than you can shake a stick at, my man has a truly storied career. Goddamn, when I went to his Wikipedia page, I saw more gold in there than you'd see in some crypto scams Discord page. Easy S tier. Mackenzie Dern. Before she was blessing our feeds with some truly original content, she was low-key slaying the jiu-jitsu scene. Kind of like how I slay your mom every Friday. In a sport with about 9 sloshages for every taco, naturally the majority of attention is gonna go to the boys. But I'll tell you, I'm not really a jiu-jitsu spectator, but I've always enjoyed watching her matches. She always had a very exciting all-or-nothing style, always going for the finish, sometimes with something extra funky. Well, you know me, I'm a sucker for that type of shit. I mean, just look at this submission. She must have been on some of that good, extra sticky little dicky. But the biggest thing that makes her stand out to me is the sheer size of her goddamn ovaries. Having zero qualms about stepping toe-to-toe with Gabby Garcia. Yes, that is not Photoshop. She clearly read the story of David versus Goliath and thought that was actual advice. Now, obviously, these matches would not go her way. I know, so shocking, right? With a record of 0-3 against Gabby, all by submission losses. But in the build-up to winning her ADCC title, which she would finally put a dub on the board against the Giants herself. Which, damn. A tier. Marcelo Garcia. If I could describe him in one word, goated. Now I can tell you he's a 5-time world champion. I can tell you he's a 4-time Olympic champion. But that's not all. Let's dive into the method that he was using to win these matches. With more than a 90% finishing rate. Yes, finishing more than 90 out of 100 matches by submission. That's a higher finishing rate than your mom has. Short in stature, but he was rocking a pair of the biggest cojones in jiu-jitsu. Having zero qualms about going toe-to-toe with somebody over 2 times his size in an all-out war with a pretty decent win rate over these massive giants. And not just anybody, but legends in their own right, guys like Andre Galvo, Shaji Roberto, and Cyborg. And yes, of course, his match with our boy Rico, where he got illegally, he would recover and get the heel hook and then say heel hooks aren't a thing, yada yada yada. Goddamn, his reputation as a giant slayer was so prevalent that when people with almost 100-pound weight advantage on him beat him, they celebrated. Easy S tier. If you disagree with me, well, seek help. Mendes. Now, if you've ever had feelings of inadequacy, I'd probably give this entry a miss. This jiu-jitsu prodigy won his first adult world championship at blue belt when he was 15. Now let that sink in for a second. He would get his black belt at the young age of 18, which is the age I was when I started doing jiu-jitsu. And the next year, he would win his first ADCC at the age of 19, holding the record as the youngest ever ADCC champion for over a decade. Now, there's a lot of people out there that'll win by doing something that's kind of off meta. You have the whole Lachlan Giles using his whole heel hooking system. Well, our boy Hoffa was the exact opposite. He could literally come up to you, tell you exactly what he was gonna do, down to the micro adjustment. And honestly, it wouldn't even make a difference. Unless, of course, he was busting it down like Tatiana on TikTok. I think it's pretty obvious. S tier, a true jiu-jitsu legend. That's pretty much everybody. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody.